Okay, now the big difference in the cat skeleton is the fact that the cat does not have an extra curve in the back, in the rib cage, which we do. So you've got this very narrow shape. Now let's take and draw this out. So the cat, instead of having this curve in here, the cat skeleton is like this. So the cat skeleton is vertical. Ours is horizontal in the cross section now. Well, same, horse is no different. Cow, all of your, any kind of a deer, it's all the same thing. So we have this contrast here. So we're built to take and being vertical. We take in our spine, we're back of our skull, and through, we have this movement through the spine, takes and comes down. We have the rib cage. Here we're built to be vertical. Pelvis coming through. Now, the effect here is that because of being vertical and contrasting that, like saying the simplest thing here is to look at the cat. Okay, talking about this verticalness. Well, let's talk the contrast between the pelvis now, which is sort of the next thing down the line here. Okay. Pelvis. It's long and narrow. Goes across this way. We take here part of a sheep. Same thing. Long and narrow. Okay. All the same parts. We're all very, very, very similar. So we've got this long, narrow pelvis. Well, if you look at human skeleton, we're really quite broad. You compare these two. Besides scale, we have this very long, narrow to a very broad skeleton. Okay. Now, okay, let's take, in other words, what we're dealing with then. The human pelvis is looking at in profile like this. We have the end of the iliac crest, we have the pubic arch, and back the ischiotuberosity, back here, spine is coming through, and here, trochanter is here, and your leg is coming down here. Now, in contrast, the cat is doing all of this is broken down into a very, very narrow range like this. But we have all of the same parts are here. It's just the orientation. Now, so as I draw the cat a little bit, think of the pelvis now, drawing this in three-dimensional, is that what we have, think of it as a rail or a box. Through. Now, say the difference between a cat and a dog, you're looking just from the top, you see that the cat is just a parallel lines. Tail would be coming out here, bones from here. The dog is just the opposite. Dog, not opposite, I should say. It's just that it's wider in the back. Now, if we have, like us, human, if we look from the top, what we see is, here's the back coming down. We have an S curve that's taking place in here. Find this to this. Whoop, this to this. Coming through. Round inside, but the outside is a S curve that takes and goes like this. So we're very broad pelvis this way, where the cat, the dog are very narrow this way. Now, also, if we take a look at the human here, the way our spine goes down, and you can see our tail comes out right up in here this way. Also, you notice now we've been talking about this rail, that the ends of the pelvis here lines up with the ischial tuberosity. That's exactly the same as the cat or the dog. Okay, it's just that we expand here. So generally, not in any kind of biological sense, or I should say, what I sort of roughly classify animals when I'm teaching are those that have very broad pelvises, those that have very narrow pelvises. Hippos, rhinos have very broad pelvises. Horse is probably a little bit similar to ours, except where ours curves this way, they curve out. Similar, but again, difference, but we're always looking for the exact same things. So what we deal with here now, let's just take and draw a contrast here. I think maybe I'll start with a clean sheet here. Now, as I'm taking and thinking of particularly just thinking about the pelvis for a moment, coming through, thinking of the box, drawing 3/4, coming in, down, through. Now the spine is taking and coming through, coming out here. The tail is coming out of here. And as we come through, the end of the pelvis is up here. Your hip bone is here. And the ischial tuberosity is sticking out over here. Underneath in here, then we would be the rest of the pelvis coming through. But so the tail is coming out here. So if, say, a cat or a dog, we would be taking and drawing, you can actually see, you can feel this bone. In other words, if I just block this in very simply, as a dog, think of the leg coming forward, or cat, either way, coming down. The muscles are pulling from in here, coming through. You can see the bone here. And we would feel into here, you can feel this shape here. Then we're coming up. And all of this then is very obvious when you look at your animal cell. You're going to find that that's the shape, that's the bone. Okay, now if you take a look at a horse, for instance, I take the rear end of a horse. I have a couple of horses in our front yard. And when I first started drawing horses, I knew nothing about horses. And when you look at a horse, what we see is this big shape in the back here. This. Right through. The tail's up here. If you had an Arab and they're running around, you're going to see that tail sticking straight up. Okay, my first impression was, and drawing horses coming around, and you think, wow, what a great buttocks muscles they've got here. And it's quite a revelation to find out that's not true at all when you start studying the animals. Start looking at the muscles. They have all the same muscles, but they function differently. Okay, our buttocks muscles start, the gluteus maximus starts here, and goes from here, and then it goes over, and it comes down and attaches into here. Okay, if we take that same, and then you have gluteus minimus and medius.
Yes, you have to move it over, Glenn. It's two, and then I have to shake it and observe it, and then he has to move it way over.
Could you scoot it over a little bit, the skeleton?
Okay.
I just want to get a clearer shot, because you're really low on this frame, so we're going to rely on this more. Just 1 second.
Yeah, like it's unless I did like something.
Yeah. Can you scoot it way over if you're going to talk about it? Just like another foot. There you go. Now just focus on that. Can you maybe just repeat the last thing you said? So
Okay.
we got it framed up now.
Okay, the gluteus maximus starts here, comes across, comes down, and attaches in here. And this ischotuberosity is, of course, hidden. We don't see it like I was just drawing with another dog. You have a gluteus minimus, medius. All this is basically your buttocks muscles. Okay, well, if we take and look at that, what happens on the horse? Their ischotuberosity is down in here. Okay, all of this stuff that you're seeing here, the ischotuberosity on the horse is back down here. All of these muscles here are your biceps of the femur, semimembranous and tenuous. These are all the muscles at the back of your leg, not buttock. The buttocks muscles are actually, because here's the joint, it's up here. These are just coming to a very short distance in here. Okay, different, same. Once you understand and think about where the muscles go, what have you, then it gives you a big up on how to draw the animal. So you're always looking for the differences. Okay, let's take and carry this a little bit farther.